I want a sandwich. Now. Oh, sandwich wench. Yo, wench. Sandwich. Now. I'm going to need a sandwich. A sandwich. I'm going to need a sandwich. A sandwich. I'm going to need a sandwich. A sandwich. A sandwich. A sandwich. I'm going to need a sandwich. A sandwich. I'm going to need a sandwich. A sandwich. A sandwich. Oh, sandwich wench. I want a sandwich. Sandwich.
Hello everyone, hope you're well. Welcome back to a pre-Moistmas political stream. Yes. Joining me for this, obviously, is the scrumptious TrupsLP. Say hello, Trups. I heard that this time. Last time when I was doing the audio for Rumble and Spotify, I heard it on your audio, but didn't on my end at all. It was completely dead.
Did it at least sound good on my end?
It sounded pretty damn good.
Good.
Obviously,
good.
Yeah, obviously though, on that one, I then go and get a cork and start squeaking it because I can't hear you at all. So I'm over the top of you while you're talking. It is just sounds like bullshit. But that's typical.
Good. I'm glad to know that we just have very professional standards.
We like to set the bar high.
Yes, absolutely. But yes, here I am. Hello.
Hi. How are you today? How's your week been?
Because I work in corporate job. The last week before Christmas is always such a dead week because no one's actually doing anything.
Yeah.
Or if they are, it's like small cleanup stuff by the end of the year.
Yeah, you're sort of gearing up for 2024 now, aren't you?
Yeah, it's more we're looking forward to things, but also nothing starts until then. So
yeah.
You kind of just end up sitting around and fobbing off, which is fine before the holidays. Like
it's boring though,
it's something, but like oh god, it's so boring.
So I've mentioned many times I don't do holidays because I can't not do something. It's why I've struggled to get back into playing more games more often, play my guitars more often, do things that take my mind off of being active. But then I remember a lot of these things I did when I was unemployed because I had nothing. But I like having them in my life. But when it comes to work, for me, it's different. It's just consistently active. I don't unlike so I clean some retail establishments. They're so busy, and I can tell because obviously when I clean it, it's an absolute mess. The pub, the bottles, there's so many extra ones to get rid of. And the bakery, oh dear God, it looks like someone just shat all over the floor. Quite frankly.
That's terrible.
It's because flour congeals under your boots, and so it just gets really funky on the floor. But you got to get that up. You got to make sure it's all good. I'm glad while it's boring, I'm glad that you are at least winding down for next year because that means you get more time to spend at home with the missus.
Yeah, that's true. And
talk about music with me, and that was interesting.
I like talking about music. What do you mean?
I mean, in the sense of you messaged me and then about okay. So for those that don't know, Trups and I were messaging over Facebook a few days ago, and we ended up talking about how because I always considered this album to be a bit more of a weird subversion. It felt like a concept, but it didn't feel complete. But then as time's gone by, if you give it more, and that might be why it hasn't done as well because it requires a lot more thought.
Specifically, what we're talking about is the A7X more recent album, which is called Life is But a Dream.
Yeah.
It features songs Nobody, Mattel, stuff like that.
It's got some really it's got some very interesting concepts in it.
It has like artistic uh,
Yeah.
interpretations in their works.
So this is where it becomes right. I always thought it was like they were subverting the how they usually do their music and making it seem more complex. But then it was in the political discussion. This fit quite handily because your comment to me was the music seems more accurate because people are like more like The Sims, because we were talking about creators, weren't we? And some of them were political commentators like Mr. Long Neck Piker.
Yeah, it was. So it comes from a collection of different things.
Yeah.
Basically, the idea that I had expressed was over the past like month or two, I've noticed like as if like the world is like more fake than usual. Like I understand that a lot of things are like put on for the camera or like for the public, for society, all that stuff. But lately I've noticed that even in terms of like our architecture, like I've got areas that are being built up around me and they are living communities. Well, these living communities look almost cookie cutter in their building structure. It's all very modernist style, and they all have like,
At least it's not that horrible contemporary design that was made out of concrete blocks.
oh yeah, like the postmodernism where you would like
Yeah.
go in and look up and see like the
Yeah.
the rafters and all that
Yeah.
shit.
So you mentioned the modern sort. We have that here as well, and what they've done is to fit more houses in of this quality, they've reduced the garden size down. So a lot of people are going in favor of trying to find the older houses, not because of the
Hmm.
quality of the house, but because you get more garden. A lot of us
Hmm.
want more garden so we don't go out as much. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean definitely.
Obviously, you live in a country that's a lot bigger. You've got a bit more space to work with. A little bit.
True, but if you live in an area that is at least within 25 to 50 miles of a city, you're essentially a suburb of that city.
Oh yeah, I understand that.
And
I really do.
and if you are even relatively like if that city starts growing, then you have to expect that A, your property value goes up. It has. And two, you're going to start seeing a lot more apartment complexes, not buildings, not like houses, apartments or duplexes or
Yeah.
like
So
joined houses.
in my country, I've always felt that flats were the way forward because we don't have as much space.
Mm-hmm.
It
Well,
makes
I
us-
actually I agree with that in the context of the UK.
Yet, it's not. They're building houses instead. They're eroding at the greenland, the brownfield sites where industrial things used to happen, or
Mhm.
buying up really crap farmland that's not really usable, and building houses on that. And these houses are crap, man. The front door's on the side of the house, man. The garden is also the back garden is on the side of the property. I'm sorry, I'm looking at that and I'm like, no, that's. I know it's a small thing, but to me that bothers me. I wouldn't want to live in a house like that. Says the
Yeah,
guy who
no.
lives in a corner property and has a little crappy
I mean-
house in the back of the garden.
Yeah, but whatever. Like the fucking details, dude.
Details, yeah.
But like you look at the situation with housing in certain areas, and these like areas that they start building are so fake looking because like the grass is not, it doesn't look alive, right? It looks like fake grass.
Yeah.
It's all that like not putting green style, but like that's the scent because it's easy to manage, right?
It just looks like AstroTurf to me.
Yeah, it basically does. And when you look at it from like you stand back and you really like take in the things that you are observing, it looks uncanny, right? It looks unsettling. And I don't necessarily have a good explanation as to like why is it this way or how can I fix it now that I'm aware that it's this way.
Yeah.
It's more of just I have this observation and it's weird.
When you told me it looked like The Sims, it took me a second to sort of make that connection. Because I don't really see much of the society because I'm alone most of the time. So to observe there is some truth to it though, because people are creatures of habit and they just sort of fall in line at that routine. They want that routine so badly, and I get that. I think,
but also they don't want to necessarily have things change on them at I want to say like really at all, but really what it comes down to is looking at like um I don't know. It looks like everyone's just so damn fake all the time, and it's really it's uncanny, and that's part of the thing that we were talking about. But how this ended up turning into the "Life is but a dream" conversation is that is essentially the crux of the entire album that they had created. Basically, they said that everything is packaged, everything is presented to you in such a way that you are not really treated as a kind of like a real person. Like one of the instances is like you go and smell the flowers are fake.
Seems like that
Um,
around.
well, I
It's
mean that's kind of real though, isn't it? Though.
I feel it's quite fascinating because I was doing a thing on in my this week at Twitter. I put a tweet that you'd referenced in there, where somebody had put a picture of airsoft pew pews out.
Oh yeah.
And I referenced it, and I was like, you call yourself Nebraska mum. Your state votes red. It did last time. More than likely will this time. You are complaining about gun control, yet you are in that instance willing to be treated as if you're English, where we gave up a lot of our freedoms so that others decide how we live our lives. I find
True.
I find that there is a growing trend of people who are this dumb, but thankfully not so many that they'll impact the next election. It'll be Russia, of course.
Well, bruh. The issue that we have a lot of the time is you have people who genuinely just they want to be not reactionary, but they want to cause an outrage.
Oh yeah, they're baiting for
people have found that that's a real thing, right? Like that's a profitable thing, in fact, to be outrageous, right?
Oh, there's money to be made. Absolutely.
Oh yeah. And when you get that opportunity to be a person that can drum up some sort of controversy or draw attention to a thing, then you get to be like in the limelight for however long you were in the limelight for. And that's kind of what a layman would go and search for, which is by itself kind of sad, but I don't necessarily blame them.
No, I don't either.
It's bad.
If I could do what they do, I would do it. But at the same time, apparently I have too much integrity to actually be honest.
Good for you.
I'll be grifting tomorrow, though, on the main channel. Don't you worry, guys.
Join the grift.
Get your donations ready. Anyway, where would you like to start today? Should we actually talk about one of your states?
Yes, I do want to touch on this because it has the potential to lead us down multiple rabbit holes. So,
okay, so Colorado, yeah.
Yep.
Very well.
So Colorado, recently the Supreme Court of the state ruled that Trump would be ineligible to be on the ballot for the primary, and I believe even the general. I may have been incorrect when I had referred you to that information.
Yeah,
earlier.
I thought it was general, so that's my mistake.
It is both technically.
Oh, well, that sounds unconstitutional.
Well, it is. You would be right.
As a guess.
And yeah, so the Supreme Court basically has said that Donald Trump is ineligible because of his actions performing or participating in insurrection.
But he didn't participate.
But he didn't. You are correct, sir.
He actively told them to go home.
Yes, he did. That's correct. But
I think you see, these are so no one could see it as proof.
these are also details. Details that people will often ignore.
Maybe they argue that from a semantics point of yes, but he denied the election result. That's where the insurrection really
No, it's because they're really trying to like hammer home this whole like he instituted this coup thing
happened.
going on, right? Like they're really trying to sell his actions on January 6th as like Donald Trump genuinely participated in the attempted overthrow of the country, and it's so painful to sit and listen to people who are so confidently wrong about this in particular, um, because a he's not yet been charged with insurrection. He's been charged with inciting a riot. That much is true, but he has not been charged with insurrection, which is a separate charge, which is important. But Colorado Supreme Court has basically unilaterally said, no, Trump doesn't get to be on the ballot. Why? Because we said so. Okay, cool, awesome. So what does that mean for the rest of us? Well, we now have to, we get to reap the benefits now of other states going, you did it first, now we're going to follow up on that, which is its own nightmare, but is happening. California is already trying to jump on that train.
Well, California always was, given the chance. The thing of this feels like the impeachment thing, where now you've managed to do it to Trump twice. It's just going to happen to every president after. They're doing it to Biden already.
Yeah, that's true. They did. What was it? They made their bed, so now they have to lay in it, kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's going to happen. Whoever wins in 2024, it's going to happen all over again. It's going to keep happening. This just shows the level of childishness in your politics.
I mean, you're right. Like there's not a lie being told here.
No, there isn't. I did quickly have a little look. I couldn't see whether or not the Supreme Court had actually ruled on this already. I only saw one thing about his prosecuting. They're not going to fast track his the decision to whether or not he has immunity for prosecution.
Right, and that's part of a different aspect of the.
That's why I quickly looked up Supreme Court, but that's the only thing that came up. I thought he had immunity anyway, but that was.
The U.S. Supreme Court basically now has to decide whether or not they want to. They have to at least hear this case. If they decide that they want to hear this case, then the possibility that it stands is, I think it was higher. If they actually hear it, because that means that they can affirm that decision. If they don't accept it, if they don't recognize it, then it's not likely to last very long.
Yeah,
I think was what others had been basically theorizing in when this information broke, and everyone had to basically go, "Oh, what do we do now?"
So I know that I had a quick look that Colorado did vote blue last time, but that doesn't mean it will vote blue this time. So these lawmakers, this state level Supreme Court, they've I don't quite. I'd love to know. I'd love to know who pushed them to do that in the first place.
That's a great question. Honestly, I would imagine that they didn't necessarily they weren't. I don't think they were pushed. I think that, and it's because the majority decision, there was actually one dissenting opinion in the Supreme Court of Colorado that basically called them out as being absolutely fucking full of it. If I can find a news site that does not have a paywall.
Run them for archive if you have to.
Yep, true. Let me see here. So you had the Chief Justice Boatwright, Justice Samore, and Justice Birkenkotter all wrote dissents. let's see here. I'm trying to see if I can actually find the dissent in it, because I'm reading the opinions right, or I have the opinions right now.
So my query was because I in this country I've never known courts to act without others asking or making a request.
How do you mean?
Well, in my country we don't have a Supreme Court. We do, but we don't have one that just goes and decides on something without it being brought to them first as a request.
So you're asking, like, how did this even, like...
Yeah, I don't know how this... I didn't see anything on that.
This was actually a part of a lawsuit that had been filed a long time ago. It was actually a bunch of Republicans, but, blue Republicans, kind of like what we were talking about last week.
Yeah,
that had basically said that because of this, because he was part of the insurrection.
Yeah. Okay.
Apparently, that he does not deserve to have this kind of thing.
Yeah.
He does not deserve to be hold office anymore. And they use the 14th Amendment, where the argument is stemmed in legalese. So bear with me for this one.
What's the 14th Amendment?
The 14th Amendment, I'm going to read it out specifically because
I don't know your stuff. It's a lot of them.
So specifically, the part that we're discussing is Section 3. No person shall be a senator or representative in Congress, or elector of president or vice president, or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state, who having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States, or as a member of any state legislature, or as an executive or judicial officer of any state, to support the Constitution, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid and comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress may vote of 2/3 of each house to remove such disability. I will post that for you. So it's Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, and their argument is that the statement or the part that says or hold any office under the United States.
Okay.
The legalese part of the initial intent of this was post-Civil War during Reconstruction. They did not want basically a whole bunch of the Confederate sympathizers to basically go and join the Congress and change up the laws, and basically they didn't want insurrectionists to basically join the Congress and do all that, or actually found insurrectionists, because back then it was actually found to be an insurrection, right?
I vaguely recall this. Yes,
our Civil War did in fact require insurrection. The argument is that it doesn't mention the president. And that is this doesn't apply to Donald Trump because he's running for president. That's a argument. The other argument is it says any office. Of course, this includes the president. The thing is they never thought that a president would be like from the Confederacy would never have even come close to a presidency, let alone enter into a primary or whatnot. But this is getting into the weeds and already assuming that Donald Trump is in fact an insurrectionist. The point that is super important, that even my discussing of the rationale behind their argument, it presumes that Donald Trump is already found guilty of insurrection.
Well, then already it's faulty. You can't presume guilt.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how the system's supposed to work. We're not on college campuses in the US.
Yes, Title IX does not apply here. Which is still true.
Thankfully.
But so the problem is that even entertaining the concept or the idea of the argument, you're already presuming that he has guilt, but that guilt has never been found. So the argument that any person who has engaged in insurrection, it's not important. He did not. Like, you have not found him guilty of insurrection. You have not even charged him for insurrection. So how did the Supreme Court of Colorado make this decision? Well, it's because they believe that he engaged in insurrection. They believe that this is the case.
Belief and proof. You can't act. This feels like it's going to be thrown up by the other Supreme Court. They just
and that's what we're all hoping for.
It has to. It makes no sense. I'm sorry, but in this instance, you presumed his guilt, but the system hasn't confirmed it. Therefore, you've acted beyond your reach, and you are acting in a manner that is unconstitutional. The Supreme Court has to rule that it is unconstitutional.
Yeah, and I think they have to take this case too, because there's already a couple states that want to jump onto this train.
Yeah,
you're going to have a snowball effect of every hardcore left state is going to basically remove him from the possibility of getting onto a ballot. If that goes far enough, and the other Republican candidates do not stand up for ethics and morals like Vivek is.
If they do this, right, then other blue states that are hard blue will then start to do this on purpose and make it for the future. And same with red ones. They'll do it so that their respective opposition cannot campaign in their safe states. It has to set a precedent that you cannot do that to a candidate.
Well, right, and also remember that the basis of this argument is because of what happened on January 6th. Unless you're presuming that more January 6th are going to happen, we're not really expecting this to happen again. But if you drum up any kind of support or any kind of thing that could be considered insurrection, then yes, other states will totally take that and run with it as far as they can.
I agree, by the way.
Give an inch, take a mile.
Yeah, and I agree with Shadowband. It would spark a revolution. I can imagine it would cause I remember years ago we'd spoken about this, about how some would divide the country up by voting party. So those that are hard blue stay together, those that go red stick together, and then agree some kind of trade deal because there's a massive gap between someone blue and the red because they're on the east and west coast,
Yes.
I wouldn't want that to happen, but of course I do believe in individual freedom, which is another point from my video earlier of why are so many people so desperate to give up that freedom and be like the British? Why don't you? Why can't you be okay?
Why don't you want to stand up for your own?
Yeah, well, it's that infamous who needs this many guns, and I'm like, but you do because you're government. You should be afraid.
Right.
They're the biggest terrorists of them all. They're the ones you should be afraid of.
Right. That is the argument that most people who understand what even from like a position from like the British, right? Also, there's a lot of like exits I can make from this, but even from a British perspective, you look at the situation that the colonists were under, and they were under a government that was basically taxing them. Yes, only 3%, but the 3% was a lot back then. Now we're getting taxed 22%. We're not going to go into that, but
yeah, I saw that on Twitter earlier in the week. Was that you?
Yeah.
Was that you?
It might have been. I might have retweeted somebody saying that.
You were very active on Twitter this week.
I had nothing to do at work.
Oh, I could tell. That's why you were messaging me on Facebook. I was stood in my bar and I'm like, he's still messaging me. Oh, shit, I need to reply to this.
This is important? No. All right, well, all right.
Okay, I'll reply, I guess.
Hey, what's up? How you doing?
Yeah, bud,
what's up? No, the fact that we at the time we were under what they considered an oppressive government. I mean, and it doesn't help that, like, in order to get any supplies from the motherland, the mainland in the UK, well, it was that at that point, right? We were colonists. From the mother country to the colony, it took like 3 to 4 months at best. That's beyond the, hey, we're sending a letter. Oh, hey, we got the letter. Let's get everything together. Okay, cool. Now we're sending all the stuff back. 6 months later, we're like, well, we don't need that anymore. Everyone fucking died. So, I mean, if you look at it from that perspective, yes, we decided as a country that we did not like the fact that we were basically being put under the thumb of a government that really didn't show that they cared about us, or and just wanted to use our position as a cash cow.
Yeah.
So yes, we decided we wanted to, have guns and arm ourselves against tyrannical government, and that was the entire impetus of that amendment, was basically that every person has the right to defend themselves. um, that being said, it's kind of a point away from where we are with this. In terms of the conversation of like what happens when the blue states and the red states, I mean, we kind of already are doing that. If you notice that there's a bunch of people who are leaving some areas and clustering in other areas,
The migration's quite common though, isn't it?
just in my state, I have noticed an influx of people from everywhere from Massachusetts to New York to New Jersey, Pennsylvania, a bunch of those north states. But I've noticed that the way they speak is, and how they speak and what they speak about, is very right leaning. So those are your escapees, right? So
Refugees,
to speak.
refugees.
Yeah, from the blue states in which they are watching everything.
Maybe at that point they can be considered economic migrants.
Actually, they could be considered political migrants.
Extremists as well.
Yeah, I mean, when you have a state that would believe you to be a domestic terrorist for supporting Donald Trump, because again, not been found guilty of insurrection, but god damn it, he was close, and we don't deal in any kind of gray area here, so it's leaning this way, we're gonna call it as we sees it, right? Yes, I'm sorry, Chaos, that you live in Illinois.
F.
Though the good news is you're surrounded by red.
So it's interesting. Yeah, I just thought I'd have a little look here because Colorado is a fascinating one. Colorado is a swing state.
Mm-hmm.
It's a legit swing state as well. I'm looking at it. Biden won it last time.
Yeah.
Trump, Obama, Bush, Bill Clinton, Bush, Reagan. Actually, it was red for a while. But yeah, it's actually been red along. Well, it has been blue really. Although Trump's is blue for some reason here. I don't know why.
It's because if you look around beyond Boulder, then you notice that there's a lot more just general.
That's really dangerous for a swing state, especially to make these kind of, and also just a thing. This is quite fascinating. Biden's win over Trump is pretty fucking big. I'll agree.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still a swing state. It's still not as. Also, I just want to say, holy fuckballs! There are so many more votes in Biden and Trump's run than there were in previous elections. I'm looking back here, and nobody comes close.
Oh yeah. Well, the argument there was that with everybody sitting at home, right? And all the mail-in ballots, basically all you had to do was fill it in and send it in. It made voting a shit ton easier for a lot of people. So it was almost something that you didn't really have to think about in order to participate in, and that was part of the issue.
Oh, that's a fucking round find out now, isn't it then?
Yes, exactly that.
The past 4 years taught you something valuable about that kind of shit. Oh, I don't pay attention. Look what happened.
Yes, well, you've caused an issue for everybody. Thanks, asshole.
I don't. If it was a safe blue seat, I wouldn't have thought much. I still think it's unconstitutional. It should be thrown out. But because it's a swing state, I do think that it's even worse, really, to me, because that state could swing red, and these Supreme Court justices have made a decision that would affect people who don't agree with them.
Yeah,
and it could be a majority. I couldn't say at this point.
Well, it's interesting in that. So this is an argument that we have a lot of the time, and it's the difference between like the minority and the majority. If you ever look at like the popular vote, since you have a map open, you'll notice that popular vote almost always swings Democrat. and there is a very important reason why that happens.
Yeah.
And basically, what it comes down to is there are more people who live in cities who rely on infrastructure built um, by Democrats to basically keep cities up and running, which usually have to play into a much more um, collective kind of less independent, more reliant on systems kind of experience, as opposed to somebody who lives in the middle of the woods or in farmland, where the you might call the police, but the police will tell you, "Hey, we're 30 minutes away from you. What do you got?" Is the difference between the ability to basically self-govern and presume independence when faced with an issue versus um, kind of the instant gratification or instant results that you would get in a more developed area,
Yeah.
like a city or even suburbs. Um, it's a it's the reason why places like I mean, if you look at the greater LA area, that place has a larger population than some states do.
Mhm. So I've just done a little look here about Colorado. It has been mostly blue since 2008. Politics, Democrats hold the Senate and the Congress. Um, in the House on national level, Colorado has 5 Democrat congressmen and 3 Republican congressmen.
Hmm.
Boba Lauren is one of those.
Yeah.
And it seems to be mostly a more Democrat state these days. However, that's from what has been listed here as unknown voting, unaffiliated block of voters leaning Democratic. That's all I've found.
So-
Although there is a surge of social and religious conservatism growing in this state now.
Right. Weirdly enough, places like Michigan have a very high population of Muslims who live there now.
Yeah.
And that has thrown the Democrats in the area for a loop a little bit, because they are now trying to figure out what are they going to do, because they're a little upset. The Muslims living in Michigan are a little upset with how
Shit, their state is.
well, I was gonna say how the Biden administration is treating the war in Gaza.
Oh, that's like a Labour MP in my country, Indian Labour MP. He or she, I can't remember which actually. They took a stance against Hamas, and so their constituents are mostly Muslim, and they started protesting outside her office.
Oh dear.
It's like, you know what's going to happen? You're getting voted out. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Well, yes, but that's part of the issue at hand.
Yeah.
But again, sorry, I keep getting on these other tangents of random other things.
It's all good. It's all good. We can get back on topic.
The situation in Colorado is because it has a large population of that's created through its city population. Yeah, it's part of that popular vote that sends it more towards Democrats. And by and large, we have more people who live in cities than we have people who live in. Well, actually, I don't know if that's true. We have more people who want to vote who live in cities.
Yeah, a lot of
than
people
we
in more
do in
rural, like where I live, it's a bit more rural comparative. People here don't give a shit about voting.
Not only do they not give a shit, but some people have like this defeatist attitude.
Well, my vote doesn't matter. It won't accomplish anything. I had this
Right.
argument with somebody years ago, a creator called Prince Judah. She's in Michigan actually, and she and I argued about this, and I said your vote does matter. It was around the time of Trump winning actually, and she said her vote doesn't matter at all, and I'm like, but it does matter. It really does. Whichever way you vote, it doesn't matter which way. Your vote still is important. It may not have an impact that you want it to have, but it's still a vote that should count towards the process
Yeah, and I've always been a advocate for basically, hey, look, vote or like don't complain.
At least it's not mandatory like in freaking Australia where you have to vote.
Well, the problem with mandating people to vote is you'll end up accidentally creating a reverse effect.
Oh yeah, it'd be a shitload of spoiled ballots.
Yeah, that's true.
If I was
At
told
the
I
very
had to,
least.
I'd spoil every single one of them. I'd just write chlamydia on them or something. Honestly, I would absolutely just write the most heinous. I'd write some heinous things on it. The next person voting's a nonce. You should definitely check them out.
Jesus.
If I'm told I have to do something, I'm going to be a dickhead about it. But I don't have.
Fair enough.
I'm not forced to do it, so it's okay. I feel like I can invest my time and energy into it.
Mm-hmm. But
Fine.
yeah, so
it's just one of those things.
Right, and so that's part of the issue at hand. There are plenty of issues that basically get sold to us in our we're approaching into 2024.
Yeah,
this is not going to get better. In fact, we are likely going to see this get a fuck ton worse before it gets better.
It has to get worse, really, for the lessons to be lessons to be taught.
Yes, correct. So we will see.
If it's smooth sailing, it's the thing. It's the concept of if something's too easy, it's probably not worth doing. I prefer doing something knowing it's going to be a challenge because then I know it's worth my time. Same with
True.
Mistakes. You've got to.
Some people don't like that because genuinely, some people are very. Well, I was just going to say they just really don't like
just NPC
having to work for it.
I get that. I actually do have. I've seen a few YouTubers like that. Actually, they desperately when they like gamers who want to throw a game on purpose of Among Us. Oh, I just don't want to be in this. Just vote me out. Get it over and done with. Like, bitch, that's not entertaining. Stay. Or I've got family to do it as well. They quit too easily, and I'm the first one to go. Hold up. What's the problem?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of people who will just straight up give up on random shit, and I can't.
I can't either. It's why I've developed as I've gotten older a bit more of a patient attitude because I understand that for me, I don't have the stresses that others have. I don't have children, for example. So a lot of the issues I notice, for example, with my own sisters, it's because their children, they know what buttons to push. I'm uncle. I know what buttons to push on them.
Right.
I want to reduce the pressure on people, so I want them to help them understand and be better. 10 years ago, I would have told them to grow the fuck up, build a bridge and get over it or something, something really lame like that. Older me, not so much. Although, twice today, I've been told I look 28, and I'm like, I'll take that. I'll take it. I'll take it.
We like that, yep.
My hairline disagrees with you, but the rest of my face is really grateful. Oh dear. So okay, with the other states have pounced on this as well. Okay. I know California had. Has anyone else?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. So California always goes blue. Colorado is leaning more blue at the moment.
Yeah.
It's ignore them for this. Right, they're gonna get. It has to be thrown out. It has to. What happens if other states start to do this?
Well,
but in a political sense, not in a legal sense, because we know it's going to be. It has to be thrown out. If it isn't, it just shows your system's fucked, really.
The problem that we can foresee.
Yeah.
Is going to be something like. Basically, everyone's going to try and basically keep him from the bad. Actually, election interference. Actually do election interference. Because right now, that's the argument that has been passed up by somebody like Vivek Ramaswamy, who has basically said, in solidarity and opinions that I don't believe this is fair, I am not going to participate in the system, because this is a system that is inherently breaking um, our democracy, and the Republican candidates should stand with me and should basically say, nah, fuck this, we're not doing this. Not everybody has played along.
Yeah.
Shock.
I'm not surprised because they're opportunist snakes. You had said to
True.
me that something about a caucus.
Yeah. So the Republican Party of Colorado has basically said that they would switch it from a primary balloting system to a caucus system. But the article that I linked to you in our thing said a switch to a caucus system would ultimately depend on the outcome and timing of a prospective U.S. Supreme Court ruling.
Yeah.
And so the Colorado Republican Party said, we're at the mercy of the U.S. Supreme Court. We're not sure what their timing is going to be. We're figuring this out as we go. But we'll make our preparations to convert to a caucus while all this is playing out. Basically, that process would be a much more like open process in which somebody will basically come in, say, okay, well, I want this guy, I want this guy, and that's what we believe. Let's go do that.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the conversation that happens with those groups, right?
Yeah.
That's a more informal way to do it, but ultimately it is a much more surefire way to ensure that people who are the will of the people are going to be represented by the individuals who want them to be.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's why they want to move it to a caucus system, basically putting a giant middle finger up the ass of the the Colorado Supreme Court. I've been trying really hard not to say U.S. Supreme Court.
I get this because you've got state Congress, state Senate, and that's why I've always considered your states to be small countries of their own.
I mean, we kind of are, and that is why we have sovereign states.
Very important to distinguish, I think.
It is very much so. But yeah, we have that basically, and the caucus system is definitely going to be a better way. But I'm more interested in what Vivek had to say, which was basically he said he would remove his own name from the ballot in Colorado if that was allowed to stand, and he urged other people, Nikki Haley, Chris Christie, and Ron DeSantis, to do the same. And I think for the most part, they're not gonna do that, which in then the response to them not making an action, the vast majority has basically looked at them and said, look, if you're not gonna win fair, then you're not gonna win at all, ever.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not gonna accept this as a completely unfair precedent to set, and you're not gonna change anything about it, well, then you can shove it up your ass, because you want to take advantage so that you can win. Shows us, the kind of thing that you believe in, and where your ethics, where your morals lie, which are non-existent.
Ethics.
Mm-hmm.
What a novel concept.
Politicians.
Yeah, I know, right? Can't imagine there's any ethics in this, especially when it comes
Impossible.
to politics. Couldn't agree more. So, do you think the idea of the caucus being? You said that there was a conflicting, it's good and bad. Is that what you said?
It's more informal.
Yeah.
So, in certain states, you have different rules about how you caucus. Some states, have a Republican-only caucus, which you have to be a registered Republican in order to show up to their primary or caucus.
Yeah.
Some places they have an open caucus where you can be from anybody and just come to anybody's primary caucus, right? It would have to. It is a more difficult, more arduous way to go about it. But given the severity of the issue that has been presented, they may need to do it. So that's why I said it's like, is it better? Is it worse? Well, it's not either. It's just meh. It's not great. Does that make a little bit more sense?
It does make a bit more sense, yeah. I've heard of caucuses before only because of like TV shows. It's such a cool word, but beyond that, I didn't actually know what it was. I just
Caucus, by its own word, has multiple meanings, but in this context, it's
in this
essentially
context.
a primary voting way in which people basically nominate individuals to be voted on at the caucus.
I quite enjoyed that take. Okay.
I think it's actually a reasonable way to look at it, because for once I think that actually reflects individual desires of the people.
Yeah, I get you. Okay, so what else has been happening over in your side of the world then, beyond this bullshittery?
I don't really know, like, because all I hear from the bullshit is Trump all the time. Like they apparently just found a a tape from a call that he made to Michigan representatives, basically telling them to change the results of the vote. But it's like, now you're telling us this in December of 2023. Oh yeah, the Epstein thing. I don't know the thing with Marsha Blackburn.
The unsealing of the files. That's gonna be really fucking damning.
It will definitely be something. I'm a little concerned about the revealing of the victims, but
I don't agree with that in the slightest. I really don't. I understand people and the context aspects, but I don't agree with that.
But yes, that should be happening in the early time of the new year.
Are you looking forward to it?
I am looking forward to it.
What part are you looking forward to the most?
I'm looking forward to finding out who other what other individuals were named in that lawsuit that we had yet to realize were associated. So we know Ghislaine Maxwell, but I want to know who she talks to and whom, where those associations lie. Because basically the whole Epstein thing just ends up being a tangled web of fucking evil, right? So every association that comes of it deserves a good hard look. I'm not saying that you have to do guilt by association, but at least take a good hard look at people. You'll be able to tell, I think, with moderate skepticism, who has a more has theoretical more blood on their hands. Shadowban says, I want to know who they sold children to. Me too! I want to know who's getting that kind of thing too. Because that would very much help my the way I want to go forward in life with my decision making. If I have to not deal with a certain brand or deal with a certain brand, we will certainly see. What about you?
I was a bit surprised they even were willing to put the list out there or be willing to at a point. That part threw me a little bit because I didn't think it was going to happen. I thought, considering the nature of this, I thought perhaps they'd keep it buried for longer on purpose.
I think it's very interesting that the judge, who knows who's all listed, has been willing to do this.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's either ballsy or very stupid. I don't know which.
Stupid
But one.
seems about right, though, doesn't it?
We will see, certainly. We will certainly see.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Did you have anything fun in the UK that you want to quickly touch on?
God, there's been. Oh, I had something as well. Yeah, I got rid of it. No. No. There's been stuff. There's been stuff going on with changes to our visas. But to be honest, the only thing really going on is some politicians dying, Boris appearing here and there, a politician losing his seat for being sexually inappropriate, ironically called Peter Bone. It's not been. I don't know. It's not really. We've had a thing with your Biden. He's put us at the back of a deal again. He's a dickhead. We've agreed a financial deal with Switzerland, but there's still not much. I think the only issue I've seen of late has been a lot of contention concerning Israel and Gaza. It's causing a lot of problems, which I'm quite happy with, because I want to see these parties suffer. I want to see how they handle it and how they adapt from it. But there's not really been much going on.
How's Ireland?
Fuck them. No, I have no idea. Ireland aren't a part of the United Kingdom, so I don't actually care.
I was wondering if they were still, trying to make Conor McGregor their king.
Well, they might be, but it's not featured as heavily in the news of late. I did say it was going to be a New Year's resolution of mine to make political content again on Rumble and BitChute, because I haven't paid as much attention as I wanted to, and I feel like I've fallen behind on topics I think are interesting.
Okay.
But I don't think it's been as interesting this year. The Gaza situation is the only thing. Well, that obviously in Ukraine. To the point, if I go to the BBC website and go to politics, at the top you have a bunch of tabs. One of them is Israel-Gaza war. 2 across it from it is war in Ukraine. The others are just like, others are culture, climate, world, business, that kind of stuff. And you got separate ones for Israel, Gaza, and war in Ukraine. Nothing about Ireland, because they don't give a shit about Ireland.
I see.
They don't give a fuck.
So nothing too exciting.
No, sadly not. And I do apologize, people. We kind of went off on one very particular topic because I'll be honest, me it's the most interesting. I did put some sources in our tab. I'm going to quickly click on all of them because there might be something with them. Oh, hang on, the Democrat mayor in Boston holding an non-white Christmas party, and then went on, first of all apologized for people finding out about it, right, and then posted the picture later on of it. Or how about Ben Cardin, the Democrat who Senate staffer for the Democrats who was shagging in the Senate hearing room?
Well, you're right.
Now you know why my politics are boring when you got people getting boned in hearing offices and you got a racist Asian American freaking politician.
Look,
Michelle
Michelle
Wu's an absolute twat. Like
we have a lot of racists.
She literally apologized for that party. Seriously, divisive bitch tip move.
Oh yeah, especially because it's like, yeah, we're anti-racist. Now let me go have a party with all the anti-white people.
What about the new president of Argentina has been sworn in, and he is going for a full-on austerity move.
I love Javier. I'm gonna be honest.
That is a big dick play because austerity is a difficult one to win with as well, and to enforce it even harder. I look forward to seeing how he does that.
I look forward. I want him to succeed.
I do too. I want Argentina to be better, but you can't have the Falklands back. I'm intrigued to see how it plays out. What do you think about the staffer getting shafted in the Senate hearing room? Trups? Okay, that's good enough.
Okay, raise your hand if you're shocked, I guess.
My hands are staying firmly on my desk, buddy. They're not going anywhere. I'm sorry, but after seeing all the crappy LGBT stunts being done in the White House, this one seemed like a degree of separation.
Yeah, not really a shocking one either, really.
We got told for 4 straight years that Trump was so unpresidential, and that's the shit we get from the Democrats. I'm sorry, I don't want to be divisive in the language I use here, folks, but for 4 years, his tweets had people saying he was unpresidential and he was an acting professional. During Biden's term, you've had people twerking all over the fucking White House and shagging in hearing rooms, who happen to coincidentally be Democrat. People whipping their tits out in the one of those gardens, Rose Garden, whatever it's called.
Yeah, I remember that one too.
Fam, the guy's fallen over so many times he can't do a complete speech. You talk about unprofessional from tweets. At least that guy's sentences had grammar in it. Biden's was someone having a stroke.
Ah, my president.
Which, I mean, the word stroke is quite interesting, really, because apparently this is quite a prevalent theme within politics right now. Others getting different types of strokes inserted up their arsehole.
Well, this one was a staffer.
It was definitely a staff rod going up somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere. I can't believe you fucking filmed it, dude. In the room where the 9/11 hearings were had. Bruh. It would almost be funny if it weren't so goddamn sad.
I think it'd only be funny if that guy's cock could melt steel beams.
Nice. We'll end on that, I guess.
Demonetized. Okay. We're here next week, aren't we, Trups?
Yes.
Penultimate stream of 2023. That's cool. We'll have to see if something interesting happens. If not, we'll just bullshit our way through it like we usually do.
Oh, I'm sure there'll be something. I don't know what, but something, I'm sure.
Maybe someone getting fisted in the Oval Office. I mean, we've got a blowjob from a Democrat president before, so it seems
that was kind of where I was going with the, raise your hand if shocked kind of thing.
Yeah. The only other version of that I like is the Glenn Quagmire, I dig giggity, the gishmuggity in the ogiggity.
Oh, God, yes.
I can't do the voice for it. It's so funny. So to everyone listening, thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. We hope you have a lovely 25th. Yeah. Yes.
Merry Christmas.
That's what I meant to say. I just want food. Okay. Thanks for joining, guys. This will be up on Rumble and Spotify tomorrow. Hope to see you next week. Enjoy your Christmas. Second night, Trups.
Good night, Trups.